السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We witness Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is a declaration of faith.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول Allah. Takbir. Allah Akbar. Takbir again.
Hello Muslim friends of the world. Albania is a country in southern Europe located in the western part of the Balkan Peninsula on the Strait of Otranto, the southern entrance to the Adriatic Sea. With its capital Tirana, Albania borders Montenegro to the northwest, Kosovo to the northeast, North Macedonia to the east, Greece to the southeast and south, and the Adriatic and Ionian Seas to the west and southwest. Albania's immediate western neighbor is Italy, located about 50 miles, 80 kilometers across the Adriatic Sea. Albania is about 210 miles, 340 kilometers long and 95 miles, 150 kilometers wide. Quoting from Britannica, Albania has long served as a bridge for various countries and kingdoms seeking overseas conquest due to its location on the Adriatic and Ionian Seas. In the 2nd century BC, the Illyrians were conquered by the Romans, and from the late 4th century AD they were ruled by the Byzantine Empire. After suffering centuries of invasions by the Visigoths, Huns, Bulgarians, and Slavs, Albania was finally conquered by the Ottoman Turks in the 15th century. The Ottomans cut off Albania from Western civilization for more than 4 centuries, but in the late 19th century the country began to break away from Ottoman influence and rediscover its old affinity and shared interests with the West. Majority Muslims. As a legacy of nearly 5 centuries of Ottoman rule, Albania is a Muslim-dominated country. However, as a result of the rigid enforcement of atheism during the communist regime, today most Albanians are followers of the Islamic religious group in status only, most practicing a secular lifestyle. In 1967, the Communist Party officially declared Albania an atheist state and began closing all places of worship such as churches, mosques, and zāwiyah, confiscating their property, and banning religious celebrations. During its 45 years of absolute rule, the party engaged in massive persecution of believers. It was only in 1990, when freedom of worship was restored, that churches and mosques began to reopen. In the early 21st century, about 7/10 of Albania's population were nominal Muslims. More than half were Sunni Muslims, and the next largest group was the Bektashi sect. Those who identify with Eastern Orthodoxy are about 1/5 of the population, and those associated with Roman Catholicism are about 1/10. Muslims are spread throughout the country, although they particularly dominate the center. Roman Catholics have settled mainly in the north of the country, especially in the city of Shkodër, while Orthodox Christians are prominent in the southern districts of Gjirokastër, Korçë, Berat, and Vlora. Mother Teresa, an ethnic Albanian born in Skopje known to have served as a Roman Catholic missionary to India in the 20th century, is a folk hero in Albania. Government system. Albania adheres to a system of government of a parliamentary constitutional republic and a sovereign state whose politics operate under a constitutional framework in which the president functions as head of state and the prime minister as head of government. Sovereignty rests with the Albanian people and is exercised by the Albanian people through their representatives or directly. Government is based on the separation and balance of power between the legislature, judiciary, and executive. Legislative power is vested in parliament. Previously, Albania was declared independent in 1912, but the following year the demarcation of its borders by the great European powers Austria-Hungary, Britain, France, Germany, Italy and Russia assigned about half of its territory and population to neighboring countries. Ruling as a monarchy between the world wars, Albania emerged from the violence of World War II as a communist state. At that time, Albania tenaciously defended its sovereignty, where almost all aspects of life were controlled by the ruling party. But with the collapse of other communist regimes starting in 1989, new social forces and democratic political parties emerged in Albania. The shift reflects the country's continued orientation towards the West, and it is in keeping with the Albanian people's long-standing appreciation of Western technology and cultural achievements, even while retaining their own ethnic identity, cultural heritage, and individuality. Ethnicity. Albanians refer to themselves as Shqiptar, often interpreted as sons of the eagles, although it may also refer to the people associated with the Shqip language, i.e., Albania, and their country as Shqiperia. They generally consider themselves to be descendants of the ancient Illyrians who lived in Central Europe and migrated south to the Albanian region in the early Bronze Age, around 2000 BC. Albanians have lived in relative isolation and obscurity through most of their difficult history. One reason is the uneven terrain of their mountainous terrain, but also due to complex historical, cultural, and social factors. Albania has one of the most homogeneous populations in Europe, with non-Albanians accounting for less than a tenth of the total population. The largest minorities are the Vlachs, namely Greeks, concentrated in the southeast, and Macedonians, living along the eastern border. Language. Albanian is called Shqip or Shqipe by local Albanians. It is of interest to linguists because, as a descendant of the extinct Illyrian language, it is the only surviving member of the Indo-European branch of the language family. Influenced by centuries of foreign rule, the Albanian vocabulary has adopted many words from Latin, Greek, Turkish, Italian, and Slavic. There are two main dialects, namely Geg, spoken north of the Shkumbin River, and Tosk, spoken to the south. The Geg dialect is also spoken in Serbia, Montenegro, Kosovo, and North Macedonia. Meanwhile, the Tosk dialect, although somewhat archaic due to centuries of separation from its native Albania, remains prominent in Albanian communities in Greece and Italy. Although there are variations even within these two dialects, Albanians can understand each other without difficulty.